All right, greetings and welcome to another powerful edition of the Community Defender Talk Show, one powerful hour of truth in a day of falsehood. I'm your host, Brother Darrell Muhammad, and I'm so happy that you have chosen to join us on the Community Defender on this evening. I wanted to, of course, mention something, which I'm going to mention a little bit later. We are in the middle, going toward the end of November. And so as we go into December, it is, of course, going to be the time of Kwanzaa. I wanted to go ahead and make an announcement about the Baton Rouge Kwanzaa event that will be held December the 28th of this year. It's going to be at 5 p.m. and it's going to be in on the third floor of T.T. Lane Hall at Southern University. And the guest speaker will be Ronoko Rashidi will be the keynote speaker. Again, it will be December the 28th on Southern University's campus in T.T. Lane. And for those of you who went to Southern University, you know exactly where T.T. Lane is. And of course, that's going to be December the 28th at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock p.m. is when it's going to start. There's going to be a lot of vendors out there, as well as it's going to be a wonderful cultural celebration of the wonderful principles that we, of course, should be living year-round. And all of us should familiarize ourselves, if we're not familiar, with the Nguzo Saba, or the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And those principles are absolutely outstanding, and we'll try to go over those in perhaps our next installment. Now, what I wanted to mention, of course, tonight's topic is what's next. And the reason that the tonight's topic is a question is because we need to know what's next. Many of us in the black community in particular are very pleased at the election results with respect to the governor's race, and the fact that Eddie Rispone, who of course tried to ride in on Trump's coattails without even saying what his agenda would be, really, without it really explaining himself, and just kind of hiding in the shadows and running attack ads without much real interaction with the people that I saw, and really reluctantly agreeing to only one debate, because I think that he believes he understood that his policies would actually be unpopular with the citizens of Louisiana. Now, the thing I want to ask is what's next? Now that 96% of the black vote, 96% of the black vote has gone to John Bel Edwards, does the black community, does black leadership have the wherewithal, now that you, and of course it was said by the analysts last night, that it was the African American vote, he said, that put John Bel Edwards over the top, okay? So we have been given the credit by white folks for putting John Bel Edwards in the governor's mansion for another 4 years. Now, are we going to ask something? Are we going to use this as political capital to get something of substance to move forward on prison reform, to move forward on the many pardons that need to be signed? Are we going to use this opportunity to say, hey, you wouldn't have gotten in without us? And since we supported you 96%, and keep in mind, 2/3 of the white folks in the state of Louisiana, according to what they said on the news program last night, voted for Rispone. Okay, 2/3, that's 66% of white folks did not even vote for John Bel Edwards. So again, we carried this man into the governor's mansion for another 4 years. The question becomes, what's next? Are we going to continue? Are we going to hold this man's feet to the fire? Are we going to hold him accountable to the agenda that he said he was going to lay out? Or are we just going to go to sleep for 4 years and wake up to the same miserable situation? These are just things that we have to ask. Because normally we just vote somebody in, and then just like we did with Obama, we just go on to sleep. And then we wake up and this, this room looks the same as it looked before. Yeah, it's going to, because you went to sleep after you voted for Obama or whoever it may have been. So one thing, that I'm glad about is that Medicaid expansion for a lot of people who need it is going to continue. I'm hopeful that the whore-like attitude that the Republicans have about just being whores for business interests in such a way that the people don't really benefit, only those special interests benefit. And as I was saying earlier to the director and to the producer of the show, sometimes I'm kind of tired of us as black people saving the poor white voter from his own vote. And most of the poor whites voted for the millionaire Risponi, even though they're on Medicaid right now. They're on Medicaid and need Medicaid, but they voted for the person who wants to cut Medicaid and freeze other people from joining. And we, black people, went out and voted in large numbers. Some 50,000 more black people voted than they expected. And that was the thing that pushed John Bel Edwards over the top. So the question becomes, since you pushed him to a place, is he going to help the black community get to the places that they need to get to? And is there going to be reciprocal loyalty with respect to those things? And these are just questions that you got to ask because you went out in droves. The black community went out and voted. And because you voted, 96% of all the votes cast for governor went to John Bel Edwards that were black votes. And that is the thing that put him over the top. So you have a right, and I would say to anybody in politics, you have a right to go to this governor and say, hey, let's stay on message. Let's stay on point. Let's keep reducing the number of people who are incarcerated. Let's keep on doing those things that you set out to do, and let's make sure that we cover more people in Medicaid, not less. Let's do those things that we need to do to help those people who need help. Let's continue to invest in higher education. Let's continue to invest in teacher pay, because teachers do need to make more money than they're making. All of these things are good. And whenever somebody has a policy that is good, I'm going to go with it. I must say that the Blue Lives Matter law, which was really a slap in the face to black people, that I did not appreciate that law, which was meant to counteract a very real position of Black Lives Matter. The Blue Lives Matter law that he signed, which could create a felony situation just in any acrimonious interaction with a police officer, if those prosecutors want to prosecute it that way, which could work against the, I guess you could say, the mass incarceration goal, or the reduction of mass incarceration goal that we're supposed to have. Now, I want to say this also. A lot of black people, you really showed who you were by who you endorsed. And a lot of times when you endorse somebody that doesn't win because you think that maybe they'll be in a political position to help you, that to me is problematic. Now, there was a person in a mostly black district in Baton Rouge who has a black constituency, a lot of black males and females in her district. And she endorsed a Republican white guy for a judge. Now, you might say, well, what does race have to do with it? Well, who do you think would be more receptive to the reduction of mass incarceration goals? A black man named Ron Johnson, who has 25 or 30 years of legal experience, who deals with the issues of our people all the time. Do you think he would be more receptive to our position and understanding of us than this other guy, Trey Welch? I would think so. And I would think it would be a no-brainer. But sometimes we put ourselves out there and we literally disgrace ourselves because we think we're going to gain some sort of advantage as a result of endorsing somebody that is not really going to do what the black person needs done. Now, remarkably, Brother Ron Johnson won handily. But the bottom line of it is that he got a lot of endorsements from some black elected officials who endorsed the Republican. Why would they do that? Why would they go that route? We don't know. We'd have to question them and ask them. But I would say two words kind of go with that, and that's the word sell and the word out. Sell out. That's really what that's about. The idea that you could do that doesn't make any sense. Now, because it's a situation where he's a Republican, he was a Republican candidate for Section 2, Division L for the 19th JDC. Now, she laid out there, the particular councilwoman put in her commercial that she made for him that he graduated from Southern University Law Center. Well, you got quite a few people who try to get their credentials from a historically black institution because they can get some credentials from there, but they're not necessarily going to work in the best interest of the people who predominate that school. I can tell you straight up, as a person who went to law school with a number of whites who maybe went to LSU, I can tell you in my conversations with them, it's going to be very close. In other words, their matriculation among black people in higher education did not make them sympathetic to our position and to the issues that we deal with every day. It just didn't happen. So now, as I look at this election, and again, I'm happy about the good things that are going to happen as a result of the person and their policies being elected. But understand this, that for 2/3 of white voters to vote for somebody who came out of nowhere, who put, I think, $11 million of his own money into the campaign to try to outspend Governor John Bel Edwards, and then really not come out and talk about what they want to do. They just talked about better Louisiana, wanting something better. What? What are you talking about better? If you're wanting something better, you can only get that if you have health care. You can only get that if you have education. You can only get that if you're not giving away the treasury of the state over to business interests. And this man wanted to have a whole constitutional convention to totally revamp the government of the state so that I believe so that the business interests could take further advantage of a state that's already in a fiscal crisis and has been for quite a while. So the thing I want us to do is to think about the fact that we as black people, put this dude in office. And we should expect even more from him now than what we expected in the first term. The question becomes, is black leadership going to be forceful enough to talk to the governor in private like he needs to be talked to as it relates to moving that agenda forward? That's the thing. What's next? What are we going to do now that this man is in? Because we went out for Bill Clinton. And when we got Bill Clinton in, things got worse. Policies got passed that were actually detrimental to black people. We went out and we voted for Barack Obama. What happened next? A lot of policies got passed which actually were not good for black people. Okay? So the question becomes, what is next? And you always got to have a next. We are too short-sighted as a people because now with this 2020 elections, the white folk who control the Democratic Party are going to tell black folks, look, we got to get Trump out. That is the main thing we need to focus on. Without understanding that if Trump gets out, what's going to replace him? Is it going to be Joe Biden, the person who wrote the crime bill? Who's it going to be? Is it going to, if you get Trump out of office through the impeachment process, who's going to come in? Is it going to be Mike Pence, who's just as racist as Trump is, who's right there lockstep with Trump, but who's more articulate and would probably be more effective in promoting his racist policies? We don't really have a lot of good options, okay? Other than the unity of the whole, we really don't have a lot of good options, even among the Democrats. And if you go with the Democrats, does it mean that you have to take the LGBT agenda, which is in direct contravention to the interests of black family? Do you have to then embrace the gay agenda? See, all of these are questions that we need to look at. Now, one thing about John Bel Edwards is he said he was going to be a Democrat. But at the same time, he did say, look, I don't believe in all this abortion. And he stood his ground on that issue. He didn't go all the way over and take every single agenda item of the Democratic platform and go with it. He was, to some degree, his own man. I would submit to you that black people, we need to be our own, we need to have our own mind. And just because we're for civil rights, we want police brutality and the wicked criminal and justice system to subside and go away, just because we want that, and the Democrats are talking a good game right now because they know they need our votes, just like John Bel Edwards would never have been governor if it were not for the black vote. These Democrats are going to lose if we don't come out and vote. They're going to lose. But the question becomes, if they win, are we going to win because they won? Because we all know that the petrochemical industry would have won big if Rasponi would have won. We know that there are certain business interests that would have won big if Rasponi would have been victorious in capturing the governor. We know that higher education would have lost. Some people say that they would have closed Grambling down because they don't really believe that Grambling has the enrollment and whatnot, even though that's an institution that has touched lives all over the world and that needs to be strengthened, and funding needs to go to Grambling and other institutions. But the point is, are we going to win? John Bel Edwards has won the election. Where is the victory for the black community that went out and supported this man? And we should stop just electing somebody and believing that the person in office is the victory. No, it's not the victory. It just means that you should have sway over the person who's in office so that you can achieve the victories that you want. But if you lay and go to sleep and all you think about is the emergency of getting Trump out without concern about what else is coming in, if all you, just like we were concerned about, we got to get Obama in. Okay, once he got in, then what? Then we gotta get Hillary in. Well, she didn't get in. Then what? So the question becomes, when are we gonna be more long-sighted in how we approach politics and how we approach the gradual uplift of our people? Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I just got a couple of comments on the governor's election. I know that, the African-American vote was, like you said, 96% for Edwards. But what also helped was a lot of these rhinos that voted for Edwards. And I want to say this. Don't get me wrong. I know all politicians lie, but I saw the man stand on, in front of the camera 4 years ago about he's not going to do this, he's not going to raise taxes, he ain't going to do this. Well, he raised taxes. Now he wants to raise the gas tax, okay? Economic opportunities, we ranked fifth, we ranked dead last. In the last 2 years, we're the only state we lost jobs. And last but not least, two more. I got no problem with people that need help with Medicaid, but man, we've had about over $80 million in fraud because some people getting it that don't belong. And the last thing I want to say, which really affects me and my family, our people that work in the oil and gas industry, thousands of them have lost their jobs, some of them lost their homes, and some of them lost their businesses. I had two businesses, well, one of them I had to close. This is a small service, but I had to close that one. And it's because of this dumb boy Edwards, all these lawsuits he's got against the oil and gas company, okay? So nobody can tell me about this guy, okay? So, like I said, I'm glad, I know all the ones that voted for him are happy, but good luck, because we got some more expenses coming down the pipe. Thank you for taking my call, brother.
Well, I mean, the caller did express some concern, and of course, believe that lawsuits against the oil and gas industry were the cause of maybe things not being what they were. But understand this, that even in this area of Lafayette, oil is not what it used to be. There's been a decline in oil revenue in this particular state because the oil production is actually down. It's really not a matter of policy. When you look at what oil used to be in the 70s for Louisiana and what it is now, you can't compare it. But we have a bunch of refineries in this area that are refining oil from all over the world. We have a bunch of chemical plants, other chemical plants that are coming in. And a lot of these industries need to be regulated. And we cannot simply be whores for a business interest. You have to look out for the people as well. We can't have all this cancer without any accountability. Cancer Alley is in Louisiana, and it's because the oil industry, the petrochemical industry, is allowed to do whatever the heck they want to do as long as they grease the right palms, and Louisiana has been like that for years. Okay? And as one man said, Louisiana has been treated like a colony ever since it was a colony. And that has to stop. And yes, if you want services, you got to pay for them. Everybody wants no taxes, but you want everything. You want bridges, you want roads, you want teachers, you want schools, but you don't want the taxes that pay for it. You want something for free. And if you have to pay for something, you prefer to have nothing. I want a state with no education. I want a state with no roads because I don't want to pay for nothing. That, to me, is insanity. You know, whatever you want, you got to pay for it. And the way that we pay for government services is through taxes. Now, we could shift those taxes to a lot of the businesses who have $100 billion of capital investment in this state who are not leaving. They can threaten to leave all they want, but they're not going to go anywhere because they got hundreds of billions of dollars in capital investment in this state of pipes and train tracks and plants all up and down the Mississippi River. They're not going anywhere. You could shift some of that burden to them so that the tuition at ULL, the tuition at LSU, the tuition at SU will be lower and not go up, and you would have economic and educational opportunity for people. You can shift some of that. Go ahead, Carla, you're on there with the Community Defender.
Yeah, greetings, Brother Darrell. Great show. Listen, I want to address a little bit what that previous caller said, because that's the mindset of all these people here in the state of Louisiana. I mean, he's right that Louisiana, especially the oil and gas industry, has been suffering, and even issues with health. Louisiana, it has always been consistently last in every damn thing, Brother Darrell. Mm-hmm. The state, no matter who's running it, Democrats or Republicans, that's because the mindset of this state is to give away everything. How much tax incentives you could keep giving to different companies to come in and pollute, and then you're wondering why Louisiana has the number one cancer rate, why Louisiana is number one in heart disease. We celebrate all these festivals, we cook all these different foods that every scientist know that killing us, giving us high blood pressure, heart disease, eating pork every day, eating boudin and crackling every day, and so say marketing culture. Well, you know, culture can kill you if you have too much of it. And that's the problem. We got a state run by a bunch of idiots. And let me put that another word in front of it, racist idiots and corrupt idiots. You know, the three words. I mean, what that comes out to being as equal to Donald Trump. It's a wonder a person like him came to this state 3 times and tried to gin up his constituents by talking about immigrants and migrants and border walls and so forth, and we got to do this. And so responding, the only thing he could say, well, you need a tough talking Trump-like person, and that's this fascination with Trump. And he's basically an idiot, a racist idiot, and these people have dumbed themselves down. I can remember when the Republican Party, Brother Darrell, granted that they always had racism with them, but they were run by some intelligent people who could actually know how to think ahead of things to get ahead of the Democratic Party. You know, like I said, neither one of the parties to me impressed me, but you know, you just have the lesser of the two evils. But I also want to say, Brother Darrell, here in the city of Lafayette, they elected a new mayor, city parish person who basically is another Trump on light, because he's not so much as a Trump person, but a Rudy Giuliani person. Let's just hope if the Trump prison train catches up with Giuliani, that it don't catch up with our new mayor, parish president. You know, so I just want to throw that in there. Thank you so much, Brother Darrell.
Yeah, and thank you, caller, and of course everything you said is absolutely on point. But a lot of people are under the illusion that if you hold the industries accountable, that it's gonna always lead to all of this job loss, and I think that situation is very much overstated. I really think it's overstated. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with the Community Defender.
Yes, Brother Darrell. Hey, as always, you're having a very, very good program. You know, seem like when we look at things, we've gone back into the civil rights movement. You know, and that's what makes it so hard on us. You know, they're talking about jobs and the taxes. What about when Martin Neal left from St. Martinville? You know, what happened there? You know, why don't Trump take off the moratorium of deep water drilling? Because he knows it's not safe to do it. And they're always talking about the oil and gas industry, how we losing jobs. You know, John Bell went at the oil and gas company to make them pay their past taxes that Bobby Jindal so gave away. He gave away the state. That's why I love you for what you do, how you talk to the people, let the people know the awareness of what's really going on. You see? So all in gas company got to pay back taxes that Bobby Jindal gave the whole state of Louisiana to. Thank you, Brother Darrell. Keep up the good work. Keep throwing those bricks out there in the graveyard.
Thank you, caller. Now, I can remember listening to the governor's radio show that he does monthly. And keep in mind, these other people didn't do a radio show because they didn't really want to be questioned directly by the people on live air because their ideas are not logically defensible. When you look at the fact that Rasponi didn't really want to debate, didn't really do well in the debate against John Bell Edwards, who himself is not a good debater, but he looked like a genius next to Eddie Rasponi because their ideas from a cause and effect basis are not good ideas for human beings. It's just bad ideas. To give away the entire state to a polluting industry and not hold that industry accountable and have schools that are falling apart, have roads with potholes, bridges, where now even the sugarcane industry, they're having to drive all the way hundreds of miles sometimes to deliver sugarcane to the mill because the bridges can't even hold the weight because the bridges are too old. Not investing in infrastructure is problematic. You gotta be able to invest in infrastructure, and you have to do that by taxing. Now, if people don't want to hear the word tax, then you shouldn't want to hear the word road. You shouldn't want to hear the word bridge. You shouldn't want to hear the word education. You shouldn't want to hear any words that health care. None of these words should you want to hear if you don't want to hear the word tax. Because every time I go into a store and buy something, what happens? I get taxed. Because I know that those roads and bridges, those schools and facilities, the health care is not free. Somebody has to pay for it. Now, I have private health insurance. I don't need Medicare, at least not right now. But I don't. When I go into the voting booth, I don't necessarily vote just for me and my own situation. I look at how the policies are going to affect the greater society at large. Now, here's the thing I'm going to say also. It's not a situation where you and I are going to be able to free ourselves just by voting. We were able to get John Bell Edwards in, but that doesn't mean that justice has come in because John Bell Edwards is in there. That doesn't mean that justice and all of the people that are incarcerated are suddenly going to come out of jail just because John Bell Edwards got elected. There's more work to be done. There is more pressure to be put. And you can't come out one day and vote and expect the world to change because of that. So I'll say if you're enlightened, if you're an enlightened electorate, the vote can help you some. But for the most part, you and I are going to have to work every day to make our lives and the lives of our people better. All right? Now, I'm going to mention this. And I was talking about this with the director and the producer of the show. And that is that, hold on, caller, just a second. I was talking about this with the director and the producer of the show, and that is why you have very, very poor white voters who are on Medicaid, on Medicare, on food stamps, that vote for the people that are going to cut what they need out. And I can remember, and this is anecdotal, but I can remember having a conversation with a coworker some years ago who said he was a Republican. White guy with a family, white married man with 3 children at the house. He said, I'm Republican. And I said, how in the world can you be a Republican when you only make $40,000 a year and you got a wife and 3 children? How can you benefit from Republican policies? And he had absolutely no answer for me. He was dumbfounded. He put his head down and just walked away because he had no answer. He could not explain why he was voting against his own interests, other than some idea in his mind. Go ahead, Carla, you on there with the Community Defender.
Yes, good evening, Brother Darrell. Excuse me. This is Felita, and I'm calling from the Alexandria area. And as we know, I've seen the name of the show tonight is What Next, and that's one of my questions, and I'm glad you said that. My issue with us electing John Bel Elvis back in office is that we know he only had 4 years the first time, so we're giving him another 4 years. What I'm seeing is, and my frustration is, I'm tired of Louisiana being the last on everybody's status, everybody's statistics, everybody's ranking. Mm-hmm. We're last in everything. If we're not last, we're close to it. We're fighting with Mississippi majority of the time to see who could be the last, all back and forth. For years we've been doing this. So what my question is, and maybe you can answer this, when can we fix that? I mean, how can we fix that first and foremost? What are some of the solutions we can come up with to get us off these last lists of health, housing, jobs? What do we have to do as the residents of Louisiana, opposed to sitting up waiting for everybody waiting for the governor to do it, or the mayors to do it, or the your local offices, government, city offices, councilmen or whatever to do it? What can we do as a people to start working on that? Because I think a lot of the problems that are in Louisiana, I'm sorry, I want to go on and on, is that we depend on other people to solve our problems when the problem is ours and we should be able to do it ourselves.
I agree with you. And I would say to you, sister, that the person who knocks you down is not going to be the person that picks you up. So the same state government that on a mass scale incarcerated your men and destroyed your families is probably not going to be the same government that repairs your families and gives you back your men. Okay? So we understand that. But the thing that we as a people need to do, number one, is come together. You can't do anything divided. We all have different opinions about things. Let's focus on strategies that we can implement on our own. All of us, and I mean all of us, can patronize a black business. Everybody can spend their dollars with somebody who's black. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody can mentor a young man or a young woman. Everybody can mentor someone. We can get into these churches and we can set up credit unions that can then loan money to our parishioners to get these homes. We can work together, buy land, build homes for ourselves. We can work together and enter into international trade to bring things into the state and into our community that we need. The other thing that we need to do is we need to be in control of the curriculum, meaning what our children are learning, we need to control that. We need to control what they learn. They should not believe that logic and civilization started in Greece among white people. They need to know that civilization started in Africa, was perpetuated by dark-skinned people. We need a knowledge of ourselves as a people. The idea that we depend on somebody else to give our children an education. Our children are given an education that comes from another people. And the thing about the Chinese is the Chinese are writing Chinese curriculum. The French are writing French curriculum. The English are writing English curriculum. The Germans are writing their own curriculum. The people in Greece writing their own curriculum. Why is it that black people are being given a curriculum by another people and being educated by textbooks written by another people? We can start right there with education, taking control of our children's education ourselves. And that's one thing that I know we can work on. We got enough people that we can work on that and get that done to where our children come back under the control of us, the parents that love our children. Now, white voters, for whatever reason, vote often against their own interests. What is the reason behind this? I don't think it has a lot to do with jobs. And Louisiana, the caller was talking about, I want to say that Louisiana ranks last, but it's not due to black folks. Black folks are not the reason that Louisiana is last in everything. It is the policies of the majority white legislature and the white governors that have been in. Those are the people that have laid out the policies that have caused the mass incarceration. They are the ones that have redirected tax dollars that used to go to schools, and those tax dollars are now going into what you call tax credits that are going back to business. And Governor John Bel Edwards said something on the air a couple of years ago. He said some people's tax credits were larger than their tax liability, which means that the state was literally writing a check to some businesses. Just imagine you're not paying any taxes and you're receiving a check from the state free. Now, Republicans didn't complain about these businesses that were getting money that they didn't earn, but they are very concerned, and some of them are becoming increasingly frustrated with TOPS. I heard one man call in and say, what are you going to do to end this TOPS program? Because it's not the responsibility of government to pay for somebody's education. Can you believe that? It's not the responsibility of government to pay college tuition. The idea that a government would not try to help somebody get educated, that's a crazy mindset. But nonetheless, it's the mindset that these voters have been working on. They work on it all the time. And the reason that they use these attack ads is because these attack ads are effective. They work. Even though they don't provide you with any useful information, and even though they skew things and you get almost no useful information from an attack ad, yet those ads are the most effective. And that's just what it is. And until the mentality of these people change, it's going to be hard to move the state forward. Because we went out there, and when black people went out there yesterday and voted in droves, they saved the lives of a lot of white people who voted for, and they helped a lot of white people. Because as a result, a lot of whites who go to college are going to have infrastructure at that college. They're going to have their tuition not go up as high, and it's only because black people went out and voted for somebody who wanted to spend in education. Black people have consistently saved this state from total destruction by the way that we voted. But what if one day we allowed the other voters just to have their way? Just to be able to get in who they want to, and they be affected by their own policies. What if we could vote for the policies that we want for black people? So if white people, the majority of white people don't want Medicaid, just say, okay, none of you whites can get Medicaid, but we want it so we can get it. And we get what we want and you get what you want. And then you're dying because you don't have health care and we're living because we do. You don't want money on education, so all of the Republicans who don't want money spent on education, you go ahead on and you pay double for your tuition and we'll go ahead on and pay a lesser price. And everybody get what they want. It would really wake a lot of people up because my tuition would be lower but hey, you don't want to spend money on education. You believe that's a government entitlement. And do you know that they call Social Security an entitlement, even though there's a deduction on it called FICA out of your check? How is it a freebie when we pay for it each and every day? Do y'all know that you pay for Social Security? And yet they're calling Social Security a giveaway, a socialist program when I'm paying for it every day? We pay for these things and we should get them. So, I'm glad that the caller called. What's next? We definitely are not going to get anywhere by allowing anybody we elect to simply be in office and not be challenged. And then we got to go back and look at all of these endorsements by black folks who miscalculated. They miscalculated that certain people would lose and others would win, and so they tried to be on the winning side. We got to go back and challenge all of these people who have been disloyal to the interests of our people and deal with these people forthrightly. We got a lot of disloyalty. A lot of people get into politics for themselves and not for the community. They talk about giving the government back to the people, but they get in and they take the government away from the people. And that's what you gotta understand is at work here. It's like the Bible says, we war not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers, and the rulers of darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what we're at war with. We're at war with a mindset that is filled with greed. When you look at how this state has been run, which is like a damn plantation, this state has been run like a plantation ever since I've been a little child. It has been a plantation type state where the greedy interests have polluted your state, destroyed your waterways. You had some of the best fishing, best hunting, some of the most arable land in the world was right here in Louisiana. We had a state with 8 foot of topsoil in some parts of our state. That means you can grow something you can go down 8 feet and still have arable soil to grow on. We had a rich state, but then you allowed some politicians who are nothing more than whores, okay? And really they're worse than whores, because when the whore does what she does, when the prostitute does what he or she does, they only bring themselves down. But these whores bring the entire state down. And that's why some of you have cancer of the liver, cancer of the lung, and you don't smoke. Cancers all over your body because a whore turned his back on the pollution and you drunk the water. You went out swimming in that lake, and now look at you. And you don't even know that you're voting for the same generation or the next generation of the same type of whores to come into government and to do the same thing they've been doing to you for years. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan said that it's greed and inordinate self-interest that cause these problems. And he said that our unity as a people will solve 90% of our problems. But as long as you want to remain disunited, and I want to mention this to you in the closing minutes of our program, for years we have defended the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on this program and we have defended his character and reputation. We believe he's a man of God, raised by God to deliver a message. But some of us, even in the state of Louisiana, have denounced Minister Farrakhan so that the Caucasian Republican will get along with us. But you now cannot get that same Caucasian Republican to denounce Donald Trump after they made you denounce Minister Farrakhan. How many of these white Jews who work in the Trump administration, who got you to denounce Minister Farrakhan as a racist and an anti-Semite, how many of these people are denouncing this racist Donald Trump? Are you making them to go on the news and to have a press conference to denounce the racist rhetoric of Donald Trump? You're not able to get them to do that. But they got you to denounce a black man, but you can't get them to denounce an open racist white man. Isn't that something? So who's the slave master and who's the slave? It's really, really clear. They got you to do it, but you're not able to get them to do it. Now, the thing we got to do is make sure that we are like God wants us to be, and that's together. If you don't want unity, you don't want progress. I heard people saying at the Supreme Court where Byron Allen is in a big-time lawsuit against Comcast. He's in a big-time lawsuit against a man named Cohen, who is a Jewish person, these are the same people that are constantly fighting with Minister Farrakhan, the same people that are denying you your just due in the world of telecommunications, in the world of media. They're denying a black man his just due, and these are the same people that want you to denounce Minister Farrakhan. They want you to denounce good black leadership, and they themselves are racist and not allowing you and positioning you, as Byron Allen said, positioning you to fail. Okay, so Byron Allen and his company just argued in the Supreme Court, I think it was Wednesday, about the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and how that's going to apply in how they're treating him and his stations, and Comcast not carrying the stations of a man really because that man is black, and shutting him out. They have the whole cable market locked down. In effect, they're a public utility, but they're discriminating against black-owned stations. And the man who's doing it, I think his name is Cohen. Cohen is a Jewish surname. So when Jewish people try to get you to denounce Minister Farrakhan, you might want to tell those Jews, hey man, why don't y'all stop being racist? You know, and it's the same people every time. Byron Allen is in the same battle against the same people, the same forces that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has been in battle with, and he just went to the Supreme Court. We'll see how it turns out. I don't hold much hope for it because the Supreme Court is stacked with people who cannot understand and who refuse to see the plight of black people. They do not want black people to come to economic and social parity. They do not want us to develop a healthy black-owned media. And one of the people even said, we do not want another Bob Johnson. That's the reason why we're not going to help Byron Allen. We don't want another Bob Johnson. Why don't you want another Bob Johnson? Bob Johnson was good for black America, but they don't want what's good for you and me. Just the bottom line. And the way some of us have kind of cooned, I would say, we don't want what's best for black folks either. Because black preachers came out and supported sheriffs and the re-election of sheriffs where black men are dying in jail, not able to get medical care, shot unarmed with no accountability, and it was black preachers that came out in support of these sheriffs. And at some point, as a community, we're going to have to hold these people accountable. I want to mention to you again that the Kwanzaa celebration will be December the 28th. December the 28th in Baton Rouge. Okay, and it will be on Southern University's campus in TTL Lane on the 3rd floor at 5 p.m. December the 28th. I believe that's a Saturday. Huh?
Yes, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, good. I just wanted to lay that out there. I look forward to seeing everybody at that Kwanzaa celebration and interacting and dialoguing with our people. We're going to be coming back to you soon with another installment of the Community Defender Talk Show. We're researching some things. We're going to be bringing you some explosive information coming soon. We're laying everything out, making sure we have all of our receipts. But we're going to be coming to you with some very, very explosive information and news. And may God continue to bless you.